Dear children, in this video, I'm going to show you how to calculate telephone bill when number of calls are given by considering the following slab. The slab is like this when a number of calls are given. So, when number of calls are up to 100, the bill is rupees 150. When number of calls are more than 100 and up to 300, the bill is rupees 2 per call. When number of calls are more than 200 and up to 300, the bill is rupees 3 per call. When number of calls are more than 300 and up to 400, the bill is rupees 4 per call. When number of calls are more than 400, the bill is rupees 4.5 per call. So here we have declared a class telephone bill, and I have already imported the package util for the scanner class. So define scanner class. And here we need to define one variable which is for bill and one integer value variable for the number of calls. So first of all, enter calls. So here we have entered call. So ss.nextInt. Now just go through the slab. So here first of all, the very first condition we need to pick, and that condition is if calls are less than or equals to 100. This is the very first condition, and in this case the bill is rupees 150. Now the second is else if calls are more than 100 and calls are less than or equals to 200. Children, in the previous video I explained that we need not to write when calls are more than 100, because when number of calls are more than 100, then only this condition will become false. So no need to write if calls are more than 100. And if calls are within this range up to 100, it means the compiler is going to bypass the rest of the conditions. So we need not to write here if the calls are more than 100 with the second condition here. So we need not to write. So here what to do is simply just write if calls are less than or equals to 100. So I hope you all are getting this. In this case, what is the bill? The bill will be 150 rupees for first 100 calls, and for the remaining calls we need to calculate the remaining. So how to calculate the remaining? Calls minus 100. So whatever amount which is more than 100, we have to calculate that, and then we have to multiply with that amount with 2, because the rate is 2 rupees per call. Now in the third one we need to check if calls are less than or equals to 300. Then what to do is, if it is yes, up to 300, if calls are more than 200 and up to 300. So here up to 300 the bill is rupees 3 per call, but in meantime we have to calculate first of all we have to calculate up to 100, then we have to go through up to 200, and then we have to find out the remaining. So here up to 100 the bill is 150, and from 101 up to 200, so near about 100 calls are there. So for these 100 calls the rate is rupees 2 per call. So here the amount becomes 200, and for the remaining amount we have to calculate the remaining amount here, so which is calls minus 200 into the remaining, which is rupees 3 per call. So children, here one more time I would like to tell you, suppose the number of calls are 270, then what will happen? It will definitely fall within this category. So according to the slab, for first 100 calls it is rupees 150. So 270 minus 100, now it becomes 170. It means 170 calls are left. Now this part will get calculated, which is for next 100 calls, rupees 200, because 100 into 2, so this is what 200. And after that, how many calls are left? If you subtract 100 from 170, it is 70. So for the remaining 70, which is 70 into 3, which is 210. So total bill will be 0, 6 and 5, which is 560 rupees. So this is how the bill is calculated. So the same we have implemented there. And now if calls are less than or equals to 400, then what will happen? Bill is equals to, for first 100 calls, and for next 100 calls it is 200, for next 100 calls it is 300, and then for remaining calls it is calls minus 300 into 4, which is the rate. Else, if in case if number of calls are more than 400, then how to calculate the bill? Bill is 150 plus 200 plus 300 plus 400 and plus the remaining amount, which is the remaining calls which are above 400, into 4.5. This is, I would like to tell you again, this is for first 100 calls, and this amount is for calls which are more than 100 and from 101 to 200, and this is from 201 to 300, and this is from 301 to 400, and this is for above 400. So this is how we can calculate the telephone bill. And after we have calculated, simply print the bill is, which is the bill. One more thing, children, don't forget to put these lines in multi-line comments. So what is the purpose of putting multi-line comments? Actually, when you put multi-line comments, forward slash with asterisk, and then here asterisk with forward slash, it simply means the compiler is going to ignore these lines. So now execute this part, and suppose here the number of calls, okay, so it is calls, yes, everywhere I have used calls, so that's why the, okay, so suppose the number of calls are 450. What is the bill? The bill is 1275. So let us calculate that. For first it is 450 total calls were there, and here for first 100 calls it is 150. Just subtract 100 from this, so that you will get the remaining calls, and the remaining calls are now 350. So for the next 100 calls it is 200. Now this amount becomes 250 here, and now for the next 100 calls it is 300, which is the rate, and now this amount becomes 150, and now for the next 100 calls it is 400. Now here the amount remains which is 50. And now here for 50 calls the rate is rupees 4.5. So 4.5. So here now the amount which is here is 225. So if you add all these values, if you add all these together, you will get 1275. So this is how we have calculated telephone bill. I hope you have understood this concept, and I hope you have enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.